Hi there. Welcome to Bourbon Turntable. We are the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. With me tonight, as always, is my very good friend, Mr. Drew Crawley. Drew, how are you, buddy?
Doing well, doing well. It's a beautiful early autumn day. I don't know. It's
Almost.
it's it's late
Almost.
summer.
Yep.
So we are in Bourbon and Beyond season here in Louisville. So that's been a occasion this weekend, and then we've got Porch Fest going on. So for those that are not familiar, it's a local music festival. So I was playing that a couple hours ago, and then ate some pizza, and now I'm here. So it's been a wonderful weekend. Can't
Yeah.
complain.
Yeah. Well, this is a good place to be. Man, we've got a fun show today. Drew, I've talked many times on the show about how I've come up with or find some of these bands. It usually involves sitting on my deck or my back patio with a bottle of whiskey and just streaming through music all over the place. And not too long ago, this band came up called the Deadbeat Cousins. And I first thought, well, first of all, I absolutely love that name. And then the music surpassed the name. So I reached out to these guys and they agreed to be on the show. And so I'm looking forward to talking with them about their music and getting to know them a little bit. And so we want to do that pretty quickly. So we're going to get on with some of our introductory stuff. So we want to do want to tell you about Bar Cart Co-op. Bar Cart Co-op is a collection of friends who produce content for the whiskey enthusiast. Distillers Talk is with Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson. On Distillers Talk, they talk with distillers, appropriately named show that it is, from across the country and around the world. They talk about each and every nuance and detail you can possibly ever want to know about how what is in that bottle got there. My Whiskey Den, every Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. My Whiskey Den, where craft whiskey is king, is a fun time with Pat and Mike and Mitch. Be sure to tune in there. It's always a good time with the folks in the chat. The newest member of Bar Cart Co-op is Whiskey in My Wedding Ring with David Levine. David is a great writer and bourbon reviewer. Really happy to have him along with us. And Alan Bishop, he's got not just Distillers Talk, he also has One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. If you are a distiller, legal or otherwise, you can send Alan questions and he will give you answers through YouTube messages that he publishes for all of us to enjoy. And he also has a show, If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything, which is about a different kind of spirit, not necessarily the spirit in your bottle, but he'll touch on things, ghosts and paranormal and religion, and you name it, it can kind of work into that show. And I want to tell you one more thing about our show.
All right, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification to find out when new episodes come out, which is every Wednesdays on all of your streaming services everywhere, Apple, Spotify, whatever other ones there are, and the YouTube where you can watch the live recording itself.
Thanks, Mike. We appreciate your contribution to the show as always. Without further ado, welcome to Bourbon Turntable, Deadbeat Cousins.
Hello.
Hey. All right. Well, we're happy to have you here. So let's first of all just start with Jaren, and we'll start with him and move to my right. I guess your left. I don't know if yours is flipped. Yeah. We'll go Jaren, Matt, and then on around. So Jaren, tell everybody who you are and what you do in the band.
I'm Jaren. I'm from Mesa, Arizona, and I play guitar in the Deadbeat Cousins.
Awesome.
Outstanding.
Yep. Matt?
I'm Matt. I am also from Mesa, Arizona, and I sing and play rhythm guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Jason. I actually grew up in Milan, Indiana. I don't think that's terribly far from you all.
No.
And, I've been in Arizona like 22 years, but in a good time.
Yeah.
Practically a native.
Yeah, I mean,
not technically, but practically.
Yeah. So does the summer heat bother you still, or you past that now?
Yeah, it's always hot as shit out here. So, and after the summer we just had, I mean, like, it was kind of brutal, but
That bothers the natives too.
yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. All right. And we have another Matt.
I play the bass guitar.
Yeah.
I'm from Mesa, Arizona as well, but I live in Tempe, which is not far from.
Doesn't it all kind of run together?
Yeah,
Pretty much.
Right. I was out there in June. I've been out there a few times, but I was out there in June, and it was warm then, but not too terribly bad. But yeah, it all kind of, Phoenix, and then before you know it, you're in Mesa, or you're in Tempe, or you're, so.
Yep.
But it's beautiful country, even though it is a tad on the warm side. Now, Jason, I'd posted something on social media about you guys, and I had a friend locally reach out and said, "How do you know the Deadbeat Cousins?" And I said, "Well, I know their music, and they're going to be on our show." And he said, "Jason was my best friend in high school, so I need to check this out and see. Do you actually know Brandon Purcell?"
I do. We grew up together. It was funny because I saw your post and I screenshotted it because it had Sweet Lady and us on it. And I was like, well, look at this. So I texted it over to him. I was like, hey, man, I think we've got a mutual fan. And he was like, no way. And I was like, awesome. Like, we're going to be on a show here next week. And he was like, oh, it's great. I'm going to text Kevin now and let him know. So, yeah, Brandon and I grew up together, man. We and it's so funny. Like, I was touring with Congos back in, I don't remember if it's 2017 or 18. We played a gig there, Zanzibar in Louisville. And Brandon came out, and I hadn't seen him in, probably a decade or maybe even longer. And, oh, man, it was just like we picked up where we left off. And he said he was playing in bands. I'm like, well, shit, we should talk. And, now I keep up with his bands. He keeps up with mine. And honestly, you and I were chatting the other day after that conversation. And, I don't know, we may try to figure out a way to – because I know you all have some really kick-ass music festivals, especially in the blues scene, in that area. So maybe next summer – he had mentioned a couple to me that he thought we would work out with. So maybe we can make something work and come see you all there in Louisville next year.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
We would love to have it. Yes.
That would be fantastic. That'd be fantastic. Hey, so before we get any further, why don't we have something to drink?
Oh, yeah.
So I've sent a couple of samples out to you guys. You've got a Kentucky bourbon, and you have an Arizona whiskey. So we thought we'd kind of mingle those two worlds. What we're drinking first is a Knob Creek, a pick from Westport Whiskey and Wine here in Louisville. And this was actually one that I got to go on the selection for. So that was a lot of fun. So I helped pick this barrel. So if you have that poured in your glass, let's cheers to a fun show.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Drew and Kevin. Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, there it is.
Drew, what do you think, man?
I was waiting for you, man. No, it's really interesting, and I mean that in the good way this time. Interesting is usually our buffer word for when something sucks. But no, you get the typical Knob Creek thing, the peanut brittle, the cinnamon, the oak influence, but underneath all of it, I'm getting like a very strong like honey nut Cheerio type note, where it's a little bit of sugar, a little bit of barley, and then just a beautiful oak note. It almost kind of hints towards like metallic, and not in a bad way. Like it's got just a little bit of a sharpness to it that kind of perks me up. So I'm into it. Yeah. What do you think about it, Kevin?
Oh, I love it. See, a lot of these Knob Creek single barrels, they'll usually come out in they'll be 9 years or 12 years or 15 years. In whiskey circles, we have what we refer to as age whores. And what that means is people are going to gravitate towards and pay big money for anything that's oldest. So if you can find something that's 15 years old or 20 years old, then they think older is better, which is not necessarily true. So
That
for
was
me,
actually, Jaren's nickname in high school.
Older's better.
Different reason, same name.
oh, so I like the younger Knob Creeks myself. I think they're a little sweeter and not as heavy or as oaky. Guys in the band, any thoughts? You like it?
I like
Find
it.
Interesting.
Yeah. You know, like it's got that caramely thing that runs around before the heat hits you, and it's pretty good. Just to give you a little more background on myself, I'm sure you guys are aware of that giant whiskey distillery that's in Lawrenceburg, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
My family has worked through that place since World War II.
Really?
Yeah,
awesome.
like uncles, my grandfathers, my dad, my stepdad, my sister, they've all worked down there, and so whiskey's been a big part of our family tradition for a pretty long time.
Well, that's very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Outstanding.
And so were they working there back when it was the Seagram's facility then?
Yeah. So, it's funny, like thinking back to that place, Lawrenceburg is a pretty small town. It's not big. In fact, that distillery is damn near the size of the town. And I can remember growing up, like driving through town on days where they would vent like the mash tanks, and you could whole town, like you just smelled it. Like it would hit the back of your throat some days. It'd be so strong, I always remember that smell. But you guys know the reason why that's there?
No. Why is that there?
Nope.
It sits directly on top of the largest freshwater aquifer in the United States. All right. So when it rains, like back at home, like anytime it would rain, we'd have these holes in the ground, probably the size of like a golf hole, green, and it would shoot water, just a column of water, like 2 or 3 feet out of the ground. And but it'd been cold. You could stick your arm all the way down in the hole, and it would just be this really fresh, cold water. But when you go down where the distillery is, all their big water tanks sit at the lowest point, and they're just naturally pulling all that water right up out of the ground. Like it's pretty fascinating to see.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, that's neat. That's one of the few places, kind of in this region that you're not really allowed to go and tour. Everybody else seems to capitalize on bringing guests in, and that's kind of the, behind the magic curtain, the Wizard of Oz type situation, because they produce massive amounts of whiskey. I'm sure you're aware of that, but there's a lot of brands on the shelf that kind of get their source from there. So
yeah, I'll be honest with you, I didn't ever get a tour of that place until 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh wow!
Yeah, my wife and I, we were visiting family back home, and she asked my stepdad. She was like, "Hey, can we get a tour?" And he was just like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And I'm like, "What the hell? I've known you most of my life, and I never got a tour." She asked 5 minutes after getting here, and you gotta ask. No, you gotta ask. Totally. You want?
Yeah.
It's a ginger. Could be a ginger. But yeah, no, the place is fascinating. Like still, I think the main's still in there, 4 or 5 stories tall. I can't remember exactly, but I mean, it's amazing to watch, and to see, and you go into the aging warehouses too, and like that's insanity in itself. Like you walk in and you feel the temperature drop, and then you can almost feel it like on your skin as you're watching.
Yeah,
such a cool place.
That is very cool. Well, Drew, we may have to, call in a favor and try to get a tour now.
All you got to do is ask.
Awesome.
So who's known each other the longest then? Is that
At the,
Jaren and Matt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how did you guys meet?
Tinder.
We actually met in seventh grade choir class.
7th grade choir.
Choir.
Chorus, I mean, is what we called it.
Yeah. Choirs were the nerds called it. We called it chorus.
Yeah.
We were cool guys.
Okay. And so you guys met in school, and then how did you meet Jason?
So Matt and I grew up together. We started playing together, and then the Deadbeat Cousins. We played with another drummer initially, and then we parted ways with him, and had just prior to that played a festival with Jason's old band, and they kind of blew us away, and so we reached out to him, and next thing you know, we're playing together.
Very cool.
Yes. You
I
know,
like
it's
it.
fun about that time frame too. Was I had just gotten off tour with the Congos guys. I was a tour manager for several years, and we all met. I think we did Apache Lake, and then you guys reached out immediately after. So this is the end, like December, January of 2019 into 2020. So of course, what do we start doing? Rehearsing. We booked our first show with me and the band. I think it was March 13th or 14th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
2020. And we had all these tickets sold, and we were like, wow, okay, cool, first show, a bunch of tickets, awesome. Nobody really came because of the pandemic that was beginning, and I think it was the next day or 2 days later, Arizona shut everything down.
Yeah.
And
I think that was a Saturday night, and by Monday, everything was shut down.
everything was shut down. And,
Wow.
so that was the beginning. Our beginning was like, oh shit, we don't have any shows. So what was awesome, actually, and it worked out in our favor because, you know, like any other band that was looking at that point in time, you're like, what are we gonna do? You know, like we got this time, we can't really play shows, can't travel anywhere, so we wrote that album, Old Habits.
Wrote and recorded.
And got it done and got it out, and we were able to, you know, switch our focus instead of being a live band at the point, just recording a really good album, and I'm impressed with it. I still am impressed with it.
Yes, it is a very good album.
It's a great record, guys. Yeah.
Kicks butt.
If there's anything good from the pandemic, I was going to say, no, if there's a positive, that record is on the list for me.
I think that was the pattern for a lot of bands during that time. I know like the Tedeschi Trucks band, they had talked about how when they were shut down, that's when they wrote the I Am the Moon albums, and so I think that was something that a lot of people made good use of the time at any rate. So
Totally.
Yeah. So when did the new Matt? When did Matt get into the band?
I think I joined.
Very recent.
Well, you guys reached out to me last year, kind of near the end of the year, and then I don't think it was until January I came in and sort of tried out or.
Yeah, we knew that
together.
Yeah, we knew that Jess, our previous bass player, who is also my nephew, was planning to move to Nashville about the middle of the year, and so we had kind of started putting feelers out, and we reached out to Matt, and fortunately he was into it. He came to a few rehearsals, and we started playing through songs, and up until Jess left, we played a handful of shows with Matt on bass and Jess playing keys. So it was kind of more, especially for the Old Habits album, those songs we were able to play kind of more traditional to what the album sounds like recorded with all the keys and stuff. So it was a good time. And then, Jess took off and Matt took over on bass. So
fuck Jess.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
Well,
I know we're going to talk music quite a bit on side B, but just for bass, Matt, what's your background musically? What were you in other bands before?
Yeah.
Did you also go to 7th grade choir? Give us your story a little bit.
Actually, mine goes further back. I started playing stringed instrument. I played the violin starting in 4th grade. And I quickly realized that it was too screechy and too much melody. And so the next year I moved to the viola, which really isn't that much different, but it's in a different clef, a lower clef. And you're kind of chugging away more at rhythm.
Mhm.
And so rhythm, I think, really drives me. And it took playing, violin, viola. I played guitar coming out of high school because I stopped playing viola after high school. And then I started playing drums because I got discouraged with guitar pretty quickly because everyone plays guitar and they're all better than you, usually,
Yep.
So there were all these instruments around my house because my brother played drums, I had a guitar. And so I played drums for, I don't know, about a year or so. I played in a couple projects, but not super serious. And then I found bass, and it was just meant to be. I played, my first band was called Sasquanaut, and we were a 3-piece instrumental, just kind of prog rock with vocals behind. And that's actually how I met Jason.
2011-ish.
Yeah, I think it was 2011. We were both playing in bands around town, and there's kind of a good camaraderie around town at that time. I don't know, there still is, but it was really close knit at the time. And I don't know, we hit it off. I think we jammed once together after that too. And so I'm pretty honored that he remembered me and hit me up for this project.
Absolutely.
I'll be honest, like I remember watching you play in Sasquanaut back then and thinking, God damn, I'd like to play in a band with that dude. And like you meet those musicians and you see them, maybe you get to know each other a little well, but the timing never works out. And the second Matt mentioned that he was going to be moving to Nashville, I mean, Matt was the first person that popped into my brain. I was just like, I wonder what he's doing. Because I knew you were playing with Jappies, and like I wasn't sure if you were still doing that or what. But I mean, long story short, he's our bass player now.
Meant to be.
Yeah, I'm glad to have him.
Turns out they both had pictures of each other in their room, in their bedrooms.
Yeah. I was actually looking for some old footage of a band of mine for this documentary being done the other day, and I stumbled across a video of his band from 2011. I was like, holy shit. I was like, I think that's Matt. Like, he had really long hair then. So, like, in the video, and I couldn't really tell. And I'm like, I think that's Sasquanaut. I'm looking, and I sent him the video. I sent it to everybody. I'm like, hey, is this you? And sure enough, it was him. And yeah, it's just funny. Funny how we find all of these things and our paths intertwined so much.
That's
on that video.
Yeah.
And before we started this, he showed us his driver's license, and he's also unrecognizable in a different way. He's got lots of faces.
And there are lots of faces.
Are you sure it's actually him? And not
At
some
this
imposter?
point, we're not sure.
We're not terribly sure yet.
Yeah. All right. So let me ask this question. The name, the Deadbeat Cousins. Nobody's a cousin, right? And
Matt and I are cousins.
Oh, okay.
So give us
I've got
the
to
background there. Yeah.
I've got to assume nobody's a deadbeat, though, right? Nobody's a deadbeat.
No.
Yeah.
All upstanding citizens.
No.
Aren't we all cousins on a long enough timeline?
Sure. 12th cousins, 15th cousins. Yeah, sure. So the name just emerged from what?
Well, we knew we wanted it to be the something cousins is how we're starting. And we went through a bunch of different options before we found Deadbeat. None of them really stuck. We
The street sweeper cousins, or
The lonely cousins.
the flogging Molly cousins, the Black Keys cousins. Yeah.
the Sailbird cousins. The closest one that we almost landed on was actually the Coyote cousins.
Okay.
Very close. And then there was just one member that wouldn't agree to it, and I'm glad that he didn't because I liked it where we landed. But we just kind of were throwing stuff out, and I remember just throwing out Deadbeat. It just kind of popped into my head, and it was at band practice, and on the spot, all 4 people raised their hand and took a prick of blood and said they were in. So we hurried up and had everybody that agreed, and that's a harder thing to do than you would think, to get 4 people to agree. So as soon as we had that done, we just ran with it. It wasn't changing after that.
Yeah, it's awesome. It is a really good name. Everybody that I've talked to about your band, and so hey, who's going to be on the show coming up? And I'll mention you guys. They're like, oh, that's a cool name. So it always passes that test.
Thank you. Yeah, we're
So,
glad we didn't land on Coyote Cousins.
Yeah. That's all right. That's all right. But it's not as, I don't know, kitschy as the Deadbeat Cousins. I like it.
Whiskey won't get in there, and he just howled.
So tell everybody where they can find you, and if this doesn't cover everything, where else can you be found?
Pretty much everything is just the Deadbeat Cousins. Our Instagram is at the Deadbeat Cousins, Facebook, the Deadbeat Cousins. Our website is thedeadbeatcousins.com. We're also on TikTok, Deadbeat Cousins.
We're about to go viral on TikTok. We have like 400 followers.
Yep.
Any day now.
Any day, yes.
We're on Thread. We're not sure if anyone's using that anymore, but we're on there.
Well, then you can listen to us on Spotify and iTunes.
Spotify, Apple Music,
Amazon Music,
Napster.
Yeah.
Anything that streams, we're there.
Where we get fractions of a cent for each stream.
Each
Yes.
one. Adds up. We're going to be doing really well this year. And the other one too, like I don't know if you guys have ever checked it out, but Songwhip. It's this site that these guys in the UK put together, and it's specifically band focused. It's kind of like one of those link tree sites where you can put all your links in. If you go to songwhip.com/Deadbeat Cousins, it's you can see all of our websites, videos, merch, the whole deal, all of that stuff there.
Very cool.
No, that's great. And your website's fantastic, by the way.
Thank you.
Lots of good stuff, good reference points. All your music videos, which I really enjoyed going through those. All that's there, and so you can check that out. You'll be glad you did, because it's a lot of fun. I was watching Reverse Engineer last night, and I like that a lot.
That was a fun one.
Yeah,
we did like 3 music videos that day, all on the day, and that was the 3rd one. So we were all like dead. Yeah. But it was fun.
Yeah.
I think it turned out good. That was
it turned out really well. Who were the people that were the couple that were dancing in that? Are those people or are they just hired dancers? Or
Yeah, they were hired help. I think what we ended up doing was going on like a Facebook.
Yeah, like a Facebook dance group,
like
or
a
something.
swing dance group or something.
Yeah.
But
yeah, they were perfect. They put together their own choreography. We sent them the track, and they kind of ran with it.
Yeah.
And
They're really good.
They had their own outfits already that fit the vibe they're going for, and so everything just kind of came together on that one. That one was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, the first time I heard that song, that's exactly how I danced. And so then I saw the video, and that just confirmed it. I was right on. Yeah.
I'd like to see that.
We should have had you in the video.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I'm available, and I'm pretty cheap too.
Reverse Engineer Part 2.
You can dance in the streets of Mesa. That's what we did with that one.
That would be good.
Yeah.
That would be good. Yeah, I like that a lot. Let's drink some more whiskey. Then we're going to talk a little bit more music. Now, this is a distillery in Tucson, actually. Whiskey Del Bach. You guys familiar with that at all? You ever heard of it before tonight?
I haven't.
Familiar with Tucson?
You've heard of Tucson? Well, it's a fairly large city in the state of Arizona. also very hot. But Whiskey Delbach is a craft distillery down there. This is their Dorado. It's American single malt. This is called their Dorado brand. It is the malt is mesquite smoked before it's distilled, so it's a little bit different. And I can't keep this. Every time I turn around, the bottle is dwindling. So, so let's try that one. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, cheers. You gonna blend it?
No, I'm not blending.
Oh yeah, it tastes that sweet.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was started by a guy who drank a lot of Scotch, and he was a Arizona native, and he thought, well, I would like to do something that's more of a tribute to my home state. And so that's where he came up with the idea to mesquite smoke it instead of peat smoke it like they do with Scotch. So
I actually really like that. Like it's not bad. It's kind of mild, and this. Sometimes you get how Scotches work. Sometimes they're way over smoky.
Right.
They are bad, whatever get into sometimes. But like, I've actually got a really nice mesquite smoke to it.
I want to pour some barbecue.
Yeah, it's not overwhelming at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And this kicks butt in a cocktail too. It holds up really well and makes an old fashioned or a Manhattan a lot more interesting. So this is one of my
I made
favorites.
a whiskey sour with this last 2-3 weeks ago. It was pretty outstanding. Yep.
That's awesome.
So I spent two summers in high school doing roofing in Tucson, and I think my time there would have been a lot better if I had Whiskey Delbach available. Multiple surgeries and a good fall off the roof later. I do not have any affinity for the great city of Tucson, but the whiskey's pretty all right.
It's like you recovered from the sunburn, huh?
Exactly. No, so on this one, Kevin, I don't know what you taste or what the rest of you guys do, but it's got a really subtle sweetness to it. The mesquite definitely comes through. It's a little bit more grain forward. That barley presence is certainly there. But really, this one just spun for me ideas of pairings. Think, smoked ribs, dry rub chicken wings on the smoker, those kind of things that this would pair really, really well with. I know that mesquite is kind of like the headline or whatever, but it reminds me of Head Country barbecue sauce in particular. And if you guys are Head Country fans, this one would be pretty all right.
Oh, I see that. I don't know Head Country. I'm gonna have to check that one out.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're learning so much.
On the next appearance for you guys, we'll send whiskey samples and barbecue sauce together.
There we go. We have to be by the grill to do it, like make some ribs, there's some sauce on it. Yes.
Yeah. No, this pairs really well with a steak. Put a ribeye on there. It does the trick. There's I get a little bit of chocolate note in this too. But this is one of my favorites. And like I said, I've gone through several bottles of it, and thought it would be fun for you guys to try and kind of honor the Arizona legacy. So
Arizona.
Love Arizona.
Yeah, totally. And Arizona's there's some folks out here doing some really cool stuff with alcoholic beverages. Like you got a bunch of craft breweries. You got Wilderness is great. Huss is really good. Four Peaks is absolutely phenomenal. You got guys making whiskey like this. It's really good. But I don't know if you guys are aware, but Maynard from Tool.
Yep.
He's got several vineyards throughout Arizona and has a bitchin' winery up in a town called Cornville, up near Sedona. Cottonwood. In Cottonwood. And man, it is top notch. Like he is cranking out some wines that are just unbelievably good, man. It's just we're getting this culture building here. across all these different platforms. And, it's nice to see the whiskeys come out. You can't call it bourbon, but like, but yeah. So like, yeah, no, don't call it bourbon. Don't call it bourbon. These guys would probably call you out on that. If you
Well, you can actually make bourbon anywhere in the United States. Okay.
Oh, you can now.
Yes, but this is not bourbon. This is single malt. So this is
Single
all
malt,
barley. So yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's it's good to hear there's some good stuff going on there. I had forgotten about Maynard's vineyard being in Arizona when I was out there. I should have made it a point to see that place. That would have been cool.
Yeah, it is. And like, if you end up in Phoenix, there's a tasting room in Scottsdale. If you can't make it all the way to Sedona, like, and the tasting room in Scottsdale is super good, man. Like, the food is top notch. It's all like tapas and like small little plates or whatever. Man, it is a go-to for me and my friends. Just kind of get that stuff.
Yeah, a lot of the celebrity spirits, to use Drew's word, they're interesting, but not in a good way.
They suck.
It's good to hear that he's doing it. Not that I would expect him to do anything else, but do it the right way. So that's cool. That's really good to hear.
Yep.
Sure. Okay, so let's talk about some music stuff, some of your background. Matt Shaker, do you remember the first album you ever bought?
Yeah, I do actually. It was Blink 182, Enema of the State.
Yeah.
My first record was Take Off Your Pants and Jacket.
Yeah.
So you were actually the first guest that we've ever had, I think, in the history of the show that also had a Blink album as their first record. So I'm so grateful for that.
What an honor. I'm the first.
That's hilarious.
There's a funny story with that too, because I can't remember how young I was, but apparently my parents felt I was too young to have it. And they heard one of the songs. I can't remember which song. Probably could have been any one of the songs.
Yes.
And
That's all.
They took away the CD like the first week that I had it. And years later, like when I was a senior in high school, I was flipping through my dad's CD case, and there it was.
There it was. That's hilarious.
So it was not the album art that did them in. It was an actual song. They took the time to get one level deeper.
Yeah, they didn't see the art. They heard the song.
Matt had the art.
Yeah, the
under
artwork
his
was
pillow.
just for me.
Okay. It was hidden somewhere else. Yeah.
Oh, that's
It's
funny.
weird because I have like the same exact story, but mine was Green Day Dookie. My parents heard it and were like, "Nope." Fourth or fifth grade, and eventually, of course, I found it back again, and it was, I was hooked.
Yeah, because they don't throw them away. They just like, oh, what's this new?
Yeah.
I like this.
So Matt, was that Green Day album your first album, or was there something before that?
No, that was the first one, and it was a cassette.
A cassette. Yes.
Oh,
Awesome.
I mean, he did ask, I think, which CD.
I mean, my first purchase was a cassette too, and the reason being was that by that point I was already playing drums, and I remember we had a record player, and if I was playing drums, the record player would skip, and I was like, I gotta get this on a tape so I can play it in a tape. And it ended up, it's cliche as all hell, but it was Led Zeppelin 4. And because I was literally just diving into drums at that point. And so I bought that on a tape.
Right.
And then I wore that out. Like that one wore out pretty quick.
Yeah.
And this was late 80s, early 90s. So we all know that music explosion that we had, from like 91 to 96. Like it was pretty freaking amazing.
Right.
All the great stuff came out, Nirvana, Soundgarden.
Yep.
And that took off. I think a music point for me was when Nevermind came out, and like just hearing Dave Grohl play, and like, holy shit, who is this guy? It was such a departure from everything else that I was learning at that point, because it was all the classic rock stuff, and then it ended up at that point, the hair metal movement was still really big.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and I fucking hated some of that stuff. And
Right,
I was like, I was even trying to play along, and I'm like, oh, this is boring. Like, I'm not into it. Metallica was huge, because at that point it was like the Black Album, Master of Puppets, and Ride Light.
Right.
Like, those were huge. But, when the movement of grunge came through, like Alice in Chains, like I think that was one of those ones that just hooked the shit out of me. And I was like, oh man, this is awesome.
No, there were some great drummers in that. Dave Grohl being one, Matt Cameron being another. That you could. It was a great departure and something that was very refreshing when you're coming out of the hair metal crap. Yeah.
Wait, are you telling me that Tommy Lee is not musically satisfying? What are you talking about?
I'm just gonna admit it, and I'll probably pay for this later. But I bought Led Zeppelin 4, and it was probably like a month later I bought Dr. Feelgood. And and I bought that because there was one song I wanted to learn how to play on the album, and I think it was "Kickstart My Heart." It's like a really fast
Yep.
one on that album. I really wanted to learn how to play it, and so I bought that, and then I was like, okay, I'll check out some of their older stuff, and I was like, it's kind of like a Kiss ripoff, but Kiss is better. and so yeah, right. So I went back and bought a bunch of Kiss albums at that point.
Yeah.
I had to play along.
Yeah. Well, there's no judgment from our end, as my first record was Blink 182, so we're good. We appreciate the transparency and the candor. No, I'm here with it.
First one I bought.
Oh goodness.
My own money.
Yeah. How about you, Jaren? What was the first thing you got?
Mine was the Weezer's Blue album.
Oh, okay.
I remember popping that into my cassette player with my earbuds while I was mowing the lawn. That was a good time for me. Yeah,
Game changer.
Guy's a big time lawnmower.
Oh, I love mowing lawns.
Still.
Yeah. I saw your story the other day teaching your son how to mow the lawn.
Yeah.
I saw that. It was
Sounds
like,
like
look at
a
that shit.
Sounds like a takeover.
My son officially knows how to mow the lawn, so all I got to do is just make sure he gets the line straight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I cannot wait till my son can mow the lawn. I'm like, please help me out.
I'm impressed that you have enough lawn to actually mow in Arizona.
Yeah, you
that's
gotta
pretty
keep
good.
keep the sprinklers going.
Yeah, how much water are you using?
A lot of water.
About $150 a month.
All right. Okay, so Jaren, let's stick with you. How about your first concert? Do you remember that?
The first concert that I remember was actually, I know it was Jimmy Eat World and Tenacious D, and I think Weezer was lining, actually.
Weedus? You say
I
Weedus?
believe it was Weezer, yeah, but for sure Jimmy Eat World and Tenacious D. I remember walking out during Tenacious D. I was like, my ears. My mom wouldn't want me. They're talking about the devil and dropping F-bombs.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you saw them when you did, because I saw Jimmy Eat World and Dashboard Confessional last year, and Jimmy Eat World should have stopped a couple years before. They were not great. Not great.
Really?
Those guys are kind of their hometown
maybe
here.
I caught the wrong show. Yeah.
They're what?
Might have caught the wrong show. Yeah, I've seen them probably a dozen times, but I mean they're from Mesa, Arizona, so we grew up with them, and they were always kind of
like cross paths. Like the degree of separation, I think, between us and those guys is not far.
Yeah.
They're around. I did see. The one thing about Jimmy that kind of blows me away is like they're still going at it. Like nothing has really slowed those guys down.
Mm-hmm.
Still out touring. They're putting out albums. They're doing all this stuff. Like and I really respect the shit out of that because a lot of these bands from that era, they've washed out by this point or whatever. But I've had the opportunity to write, record, and play with Jim Adkins a couple times, and that is an experience I can't even describe. Like how amazing that is. Like So like I do have a big spot in my heart for those dudes. And like,
Yeah, that's awesome.
Perfect, man.
Yeah. Well, and props to them for taking kind of the wave that they came in on and continuing to release, more records and tour them and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I didn't mean to come across as overly critical.
No. Totally. But shows are tough. Like hell, I went and saw Snoop Dogg with my wife last year at some point. That was a tough show, man. I was just like, I don't know what's happening. Is this the artist? Is the audio guys not knowing what they're doing tonight?
Believe it or not, even we've played a tough show at times.
Yeah.
So Jason, what was your first concert?
You asked Matt that question, and I immediately remembered how confused I am because, it was a long time ago. And I first started seeing shows like all in the same summer. So I'm trying, a long time ago, in a galaxy far away. Like, I'm trying to remember if it was Steel Wheels, Rolling Stones with Living Color.
Yes.
That's
or
tour.
With, Tears for Fears.
Okay.
I can't remember which one it was. But it was one of those. I think it was that same summer. But that same summer, I think I saw Guns N' Roses, maybe even a Metallica show. I can't remember. But it's one of those. And Tears for Fears popping in there. Like I was such a big fan of those guys when I was a kid, and I still am. It's kind of crazy. I still love that band.
So when Living Color came on big, that was what, early mid 80s, I guess.
Mid 80s, I'm thinking. So that Steel Wheels tour had to be 88, 89.
Yeah.
Shit, I'm giving away my age. I'm giving away my age here, aren't I?
I was almost watching by there.
Yeah. Wow.
Let's see. Steel Wheels came out in 89, and Living Color, Vivid came out in 88. And
88,
yeah. And that, honestly, at that point, I might want to see Living Color a little bit more than even the Rolling Stones.
I remember it. I remember blown away by Living Color because I was already playing drums by that point. And we saw them at it's not there anymore, but it was Riverfront Coliseum in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
The old Reds and Bengals shared use stadium.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that place seated like 60,000 at that point. And I remember, I think it was a sold out show.
I'm sure it would have been.
Yeah, that was. I think that's my furthest back that I can remember. I think
that's a great one.
Yeah. That is fantastic. Matt Shaker, what was your first concert?
Well, my first concert, not my choice.
we all have those too. So yeah.
Was it Debbie Gibson?
It was with my mom. I don't know if she couldn't find a babysitter or
this is good.
what was going to happen. But first concert ever was Leanne Rimes. Don't remember much about it. Don't remember the venue, country. But the first concert that I remember choosing to go to, outside of like local bands, was the Ataris, which was pretty fun.
Okay.
And I did get punched in the face. That was my first.
Explain.
That was my so I'll explain it.
Please tell the story.
I went with my friend. We were both big Ataris fans, and I'd never been in a mosh pit. I never wanted to be in a mosh pit. And my friend just left me out to dry, and he was in the mosh pit all night, and I was just kind of by myself watching the dance. And he came back periodically, and then eventually he's just like begging me to come into the mosh pit with him, convinced me to go. So I went into the mosh pit, and I didn't push anyone. I just kind of like awkwardly like trying to stay out of everyone's way, making sure I didn't get shoved. And this guy from across the circle makes eye contact with me and just goes straight to me and doesn't push, just punches me. Right right in the jaw, and I just fell right to the ground.
Yeah.
And by the time I got up, I never saw the guy again. It wasn't like I never saw him again. But I couldn't chew I couldn't chew food for like 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
He hit me pretty hard. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He was pissed that you
Yeah, he could see that I didn't belong in the mosh pit. I get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Punch.
That was his heat check moment. Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh.
All right, so Matt, can you top that story where you punched in the face or hit with a metal chair at your first concert?
No, I mean, at one point in time, I did go to an Ozfest where the entire gate just got torn down as Slipknot went on, and it was insanity. But no, I have to say the first big show that I remember was Jimmy Eat World, Blink-182, and Green Day.
Hey,
Wow.
Yeah.
Our parents would be disgusted.
Well, hopefully they don't watch this video because they would be very disappointed in all of us all over again.
We'll share it with everyone except our parents.
Yeah.
You can block the one person.
Yeah. So, Jaren, when did you start playing guitar?
I grew up taking piano lessons since I was, I don't know, probably 5 or 6. And then about 9th grade, realized that girls were more receptive to guitar players than piano players. So,
I knew where that was going.
That's the exact story of my life. I love
yeah,
that.
there you go. Yeah, you get it. I tried the football thing and realized I wasn't very athletic, so I figured guitar was my next best shot at getting a girlfriend. So started kind of teaching myself guitar in 9th grade and just did at the time it was like the emo craze was going on. So it was a lot of like Dashboard Confessional type stuff. And yeah, that was when I got into the guitar. It was mostly acoustic. I didn't really start playing electric guitar until Matt asked me, about the Deadbeat Cousins.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what I want to know is, Drew, are you related to Matt and Jaren? Because their stories just intersect with yours.
Dude, I was going to say, we have a lot of similar upbringing, but I think that's just being a sad teenager in the early aughts. I think that's probably just that common thread.
Drew, do you want to join the band?
I will contribute sadness and whiskey. That's all I got for you.
Hey, he did roofing.
I can do shingles on your roof for sure. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I think they've
they
frozen
might
up here
be
a little
frozen.
bit.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's vamp for just a second, Drew.
Sure.
So seriously, your first album matched Matt's.
Yep.
And your story about learning when you picked up and started playing guitar matched Jaren's.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to ask about church stuff because I think there's probably a little bit of overlap there too with if the Switchfoot album is 20 years old now. So or the one we talked about last week.
Yeah.
And so
Beautiful Letdown, yeah.
Yep, that's what it was. Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm fairly confident that there'll be some overlap there too.
Okay. So Matt, I think we were talking about your first concert. Is that right?
We were, yeah. Well,
yeah.
I admitted to it. Jimmy Eat World, Blink-182, Green Day.
What a lineup.
Pretty awesome. I mean, honestly, Jimmy Eat World was great. They were a good opener. And Blink-182 was good as well. And then, of course, Green Day just sort of stole the show. I mean,
Quite the combo.
They stole it.
Yeah.
Do you remember the venue that you saw them at?
Yeah, it was. I mean, back then it was called America West. It's where the Phoenix Suns play.
Yeah.
Now it's called Footprint Center.
Not as good.
They make straws that are degradable.
Turtle approved.
They make straws. All right. And Jason, how about you? First concert? You remember that?
I think it was that. I don't remember if it was the Tears for Fears.
Oh yeah. That's right. We talked Living Color. Yes, Living
Yeah.
Color and then Rolling Stones. All right.
Yeah.
Apparently, an alarm went off in my head, and so I
It's all right.
had to reboot. Let's talk about the band. Let's talk about the Deadbeat Cousins. And so the first album that you guys put together was what?
Get By.
Get By. And that's the Get By over here. That's
Yeah, so we're right in the middle of the original Get By album is fully out there and recorded.
Mhm.
It was recorded before we met Jason or Matt,
Mhm.
and I guess before Jess was.
I'm actually jealous that Jaren has a little bit of that Del Bach left over. No. Yeah, that's actually. I like it. Sorry,
He actually stole mine.
asshole.
But we felt like once Jason and Jess at the time joined the band, the songs just kind of morphed into something different with their presence. So we re-recorded them, and that's what we've been releasing is the re-recorded versions of Get By. And then so Get By technically was the first album that we wrote and recorded, and then the Pandemic album that Jason mentioned earlier was Old Habits #2.
Yeah. And I was a little confused when I first started listening to you guys because I'm seeing all these songs come out on Get By. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute. This said it came out in 2019, but this is coming out now. And then I started listening to them side by side and I said, oh, okay. I see what they're doing here. This is fantastic. And,
yeah, I don't know if we keep. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I don't know if we're planning on keeping the original album up once all the new ones are finished being released or not. So
yeah,
I think we were inspired by Taylor Swift doing her.
We've actually got beef with Scooter Braun.
Yeah.
He fucked us over one time. We're through with it. We've had enough. This is now Get By our version.
Yes.
Love it.
I do like the changes that you've made to it. It's not like a complete overhaul, but it is. It's an improvement, and I like the first one really well, but this one is just fantastic. So,
Definitely. Yeah. Well, that's a little bit of a springboard for me, and Kevin and I are both from backgrounds of faith, and I think there's quite a bit of religious or faith or whatever you want to call it influence in some of y'all's records. And we were just talking about the new Switchfoot Beautiful Letdown 20th anniversary release, and re-releasing all those things, and so it's kind of confabulated into this conversation. So what role does faith have in y'all's writing as a band? Is that something that all of you share, or a few of you, or where does that play in?
So that's definitely a loaded question, but Matt and I, we grew up, with a very strong faith presence, and the album Old Habits was kind of
Apologies.
kind of our outlet.
Company. Yeah. Apologies also for cutting you off.
Anything else?
Apologies.
But so I guess you could say Matt and I kind of lost our faith in the religion we were brought up in, and the album Old Habits was kind of our outlet of exploring that journey within ourselves and what it meant to us, and just kind of figuring out who we were and what faith means to us and religion in general. So I guess a few of the songs are more kind of explicit or obvious than others, but overall that whole album kind of chronicles our faith journey and exodus away from our the faith that we were brought up in, and was just kind of a cathartic, therapeutic release for us, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. First of all, I think a lot of those themes are very relatable for a lot of people. For whatever reason, I think there's a direct crossover between kids that grew up in the emo scene and church trauma, and then now sad country music, or blues or whatever. There's a direct pathway. But I was just intrigued by those themes. Listening to y'all's records, that's something that I personally share. So I was just curious about the role that had in your songwriting.
Yeah, I was glad you caught on to that too, because we try not to be, completely direct with our lyrics. So, but we also want to be as honest as we can. But
sure,
sometimes I wonder how much people catch on to that. But yeah, you hit the nail right on the head.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I want to ask Matt, bass player. I forget the last names. I'm so sorry, but I was curious, just as a musician, what your experience has been as somebody that plays drums and bass. Has that given you guys kind of a shared lexicon but between the two of you as a rhythm section, or has that been a challenge? Because you hear all these stories about Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins, or these other kind of dynamic duos that are both drummers, those kind of things. So speak to that if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I wouldn't ever call myself a drummer. Like I know my way around a kit. I know how to play beats, but to really be a drummer takes a lot more than that. So, I think really all it really ever did was give me some insight into how all of the music comes together, and especially rhythmically, and how much the drums influence the feel and of just the nature of the tune. And really drums and bass work hand in hand together. So it was just a good way to learn, like, when somebody's doing a particular rhythm, they're using the kick drum for the one or the snare for the two. And to understand that as a bass player can be helpful, because it kind of helps you lock in rhythmically, think more rhythmically, and maybe not hopefully get in the way as much as you can.
Not a good fucking answer.
Yeah.
Really, like when it comes down to it, like my experiences of playing bands, I love playing with guys, people that were drummers, moved away and picked up a guitar, or didn't sing or whatever it was they want to do. Like that makes it way easier on a drummer if everybody understands, that foundation between, like bass and drums. Like, it's the rhythm section. It is the foundation of what is going on.
Right.
And, when you've got a couple people that really understand the ins and outs of each other, it just makes it easier. Like I've never found it difficult. One playing with you or anybody else that has a good insight of what it means to be a drummer. And it's kind of awesome. Never heard you say that, but I like that.
Yeah, that's neat. Cool. Well, I've got a speed round question, then I'll kick it back to Kevin. This is going to be my deep music nerdery. So I would love to ask just a dream rig rundown for each of you. Give me your signal flow. Here's my guitar. Here's my pedals. Here's my amp. Whatever. For drums. Just give us the dream situation. For this band, we'll narrow it down for what you guys are currently doing.
For this band. Okay. Should I start? We'll go this way.
You get started,
okay.
man.
So I'm playing a Gibson SG Classic with P90 pickups, and I played Les Pauls and Telecasters, and just felt like the P90s were the perfect kind of blend, the perfect kind of bite that we needed for the vibe and tone that we're going for.
Sure.
My pedal board is always evolving. I usually will have some kind of gain or boost, some kind of fuzz, and as well as delay and reverb because my amp I'm playing a Supro Thunderbolt reissue, so it's just it's loud and clean. It's a great sounding amp. It's super great for like jazz and stuff like that. But with the pedal board, I add a little bit of reverb and gain or fuzz, whatever we're going for. But I don't know. I guess for me, it's always evolving. It's got to be tube. We did a recording session through some amps emulations, and it just didn't sit right with me. We ended up kind of re-recording all of that. But yeah, I just love the raw feedback, the live sound, whatever we can make it do to sound most organic is what I go for.
Absolutely. Well, I don't want to cut anybody off, but do you fight staying in tune with the SG tuners, or have you figured out some magic that nobody else has?
I try to get it set up 2 or 3 times a year, and it's done okay so far for me. So yeah, intonation has been okay. Maybe I got a good one. I don't know. But
Absolutely. Well, this is a total side conversation we can have later on, but Kevin and I both saw Tedeschi trucks within the last couple of months, and Derek's SG that he plays, he does not retune and he does not change guitars for 90 minutes. And we were both pretty blown away because I fight my Gibson tunings all the time. I've got about 3 songs and then I have to retune. So I was just curious. Awesome. Matt, how about you, man?
Tuner anyway, so I'm always kind of tuning in between songs anyway.
Perfect.
Chronic. Yeah, I mean, what Jaren said for me. Jaren is a much more of a music junkie than I am with the guitars. I'm not picky. I don't have it. What I currently play is a Gibson Les Paul that I got in 2020, new, cool, and then also a Telecaster Fender, and play out of a Vox AC-15. Outside of that, I pretty much buy whatever Jaren tells me to buy.
Love it. Hey, those AC-15s, man, that's the Swiss Army knife of amps for sure.
Yeah, I really like it. I've played on a Fender before that, and I can't remember what it was before that. But as far as sound goes, I really like the AC-15. Same thing with Jaren said. I do prefer the tubes. I wouldn't go backwards to not having tubes. How I started, but outside of that, really not too picky. Just if Jaren's hearing something, he tells me.
Love it.
That's what cousins do. We just help with tones.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Jason?
Tone cousins.
So I've been a vintage drum guy for years, long time, and I've had a mid '60s Rogers kit for probably 15 years, and it's literally almost the only kit I have. If you see our live stuff, that's what I'm playing. All of the tracks on Old Habits were with that kit. I fly around through a couple different snare drums. I've got Black Beauty and the Superphonic, both Ludwig, that I bounce back and forth between. Both are interesting, actually unique to the brand. Like the Black Beauty is a flat Black Beauty, so it's got a matte finish instead of the shiny, which I find takes some of the highs out of it a little bit, makes it a little more kind of mellow. And the Superphonic is hammered. It's a hand hammered Superphonic, and it does the same. It kind of mellows it out a little bit, so it's not there's not a lot of high end overtones coming out of it. We would go back and listen to our album. I think Old Habits, man, I probably used 4, 5, 6 different snare drums on that. The new stuff that's been coming out, the Get By Redo stuff, has been. I actually recorded that on a Franklin drum kit. Had it in the studio, and it sounded great, and I felt really comfortable. So I was like, "Why the hell not? I'll try it." And then I honestly bounced back and forth between the Black Beauty and the Superphonic on that one. Cymbals have always been with this band. Those Meinl Byzants, the traditional ones, the thin, dark sounding cymbals. Like
Yeah, they're super warm.
Super warm, and every engineer I've taken those into a studio with, they were like, "Oh my God, what are those? Don't have to EQ them that much." Like, yeah, like, you know. But you know, tunings, you know, like I try to keep drums pretty natural. I'll use some mutes every now and then, whether it's big fat snare drums or, you know, foam or cotton balls or whatever hell it might be. You know, to kind of mellow them out. But other than that, man, like I don't try to go too crazy, man. Like I've got a, you know, 4-piece kit. I've been, you know, for the ease of moving around from house venue to whatever it might be. Like, you know, I just try to keep it simple and go from there.
There is a practicality to it, right? At some point, you can't. It's not easy to transport a Neil Peart drum kit from gig to gig, right?
No, my goal at one point was, can I put a kit together that I can carry in one trip? And whether it's on wheels or backpacks or whatever the hell it might be, you know, just to keep it kind of small. But yeah, you know, but I'm always looking around. You know, Rogers, those kits they made back in the 60s are phenomenal. Like they sound good, they hold up, they look great. They're fun to play. They've had this rebirth. I don't know who bought the line or bought the brand name, but they've started to remake Rogers drums, and I'm actually quite blown away with what they're putting out. You can check them out. They're on Instagram, and like they give you all kinds of sound examples. And man, I'm so into them. Like I might pick up another one when the time comes to have one, because you know, carrying around a mid 60s Rogers kit to every show. Like you get a little nervous sometimes. You're like, they gotta be. They're 50 years old, so you know, like you got to keep them gentle. Yeah. You can't beat them up. They're delicate.
And fun fact about Jason, he breaks more sticks than any drummer I've played with him.
I love it.
Gentle, but
One per chorus.
One per chorus.
All right, Matt, you?
Yeah, you know, I'm usually going back and forth between either a Fender Jazz or a Fender Precision bass. I recently bought a Precision bass, so it's newer, so I probably play it more. At the moment, I have a pretty compact pedal board. You know, it's kind of like Jaren was talking about. You got a few gain stages, maybe an octave pedal, which gets turned on every once in a while. And ideally a good preamp of some kind that you can get a good signal to send to the front of house or record with, you know, in space.
I guess I forgot that part. I would love to have preamps and preamps. Yeah.
And then, you know, currently I'm going through some orange gear. So I've got orange, a 115 and a 210 with a horn. And I can either just use one or the other or both if we're playing a big outdoor show. You know, if I could, I'd probably take an Ampeg SVT, but I don't want to haul around a refrigerator or 100 amp and have to worry.
Figure it out with the drum set.
You have to buy a pickup truck if you go that route. Yeah,
Right. Totally.
I've already had the refrigerator, the 810 cab in the past. And, you know, I like being able to choose if we're at a smaller show or even a space, and I only need one.
That'd be brutal.
Yeah, the refrigerator is just too much. 150-pound bass speakers is just
kind of awesome.
it's
awesome. But like, I used to, when I toured, like there was moments where there was a big ass amp out, and then you get to the venue and you're like, oh shit, 2 flights of stairs. And you're carrying all that up, and you're like, all right, you got to get the job done. You got to get the show.
Sure.
Sure.
Well,
Do it.
The show must go on.
Yeah, you do it. You do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for indulging my deep nerdery of gear. Me and the other 4 guitar nerds that watch our show will be deeply appreciative. So thank you.
Oh.
That's awesome.
Well, one of the things that stands out to me about your band is how well balanced everything is. Each of you are very, very good at your individual instruments, but it all blends together really well. It's because you listen to some groups and okay, well, this band is a vehicle for the guitarist to show off, or for the vocalist to show us how great he can sing. But with you guys, all those individual elements of excellence are certainly there, but it all works within the balance of the group itself, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. That's a goal. Like that's a goal of ours when we're writing and recording, and particularly on my side, particularly. I wasn't going to you should because that was it's got me. But there's this simplicity. Like when we're in this genre, you can complicate the shit out of anything very easily. Right. And whenever we're doing our writing sessions or whatever, I try to change my approach to drums is, man, how can I cut this down to the absolute bare bones? Because I don't want to, and I know these guys kind of do the same thing. So that gives the song a time to shine instead of one particular aspect of what we're doing. And don't get me wrong, there's moments where Jaren's got fucking amazing guitar solos. Matt's got, lyrics that you're just kind of like, God, this got to come out. And I don't want to play on top of them too much, So, and, that's kind of, I think we all approach it, but we don't really talk about it. We have a producer that we work with. His name's Dominic Armstrong. And he's been here since the beginning. And, I try to be as simple as possible. And then Dom comes back and says, hey, why don't you take those couple ghost notes out? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, okay, good call. He helps. He's a huge help. And I can't believe we've gone this whole conversation without bringing up Dom.
Oh, Dominic, we are so sorry.
We love you, Dom. But you went fucking Portland, and I still don't know why. But you can come back to Phoenix anytime, blah blah blah. But I texted him. Not like, okay, but he's the 5th member of this band, and honestly, it would be cool to have him here, because he is. If anybody knows us, it's that dude, and he could probably entertain some people about us just as well or better than usual.
And it's funny how often we're working on a song and we'll get stuck or it's not working for whatever reason, doing it, and simplifying it even more seems to be the answer more often than not.
We record every new idea, and a lot of times once we feel like we're solid with an idea, we throw it up to Dom. Dom comes back to us and he's like, why don't you try this? Why don't you do that? And the guy's got a great ear for us as a band, and really do appreciate the insight that he comes back with us. But
he's from England.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's British. Yeah, he's got Neve and Soundcraft in his blood.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an awesome thing to have.
In terms of the songwriting process, is that something? How do you start that? Do you start it with the music? Do you start it with a riff? Do you start it with a lyric?
Yes to everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
So to me, a song is the music. To Matt, a song is the lyrics.
Well,
and so we work together a lot, and I'll usually come up with a hook or some sort of a chorus or something. I'll send it to Matt, and then he'll write a verse or have an idea, and then we kind of do the Postal Service thing where we're sending voice memos back and forth, and
Lots of iPhone voice memos flooded in the phones.
Yeah.
And then eventually we get together. We don't live very far, but it's more just getting our schedules to align. Eventually we get together, we run through it and try to, more often than not, finish the song together as far as just putting it together. And then we bring it to the practice space, let these guys get their hands on it. We don't ever tell these guys what to do. They bring it to life.
Yeah.
Solve a lot of the problems.
I've been in bands where like I have a song idea and I'm like, okay, vocalist, I want you to do this, and drummer, I want you to do this, and bass player, I want you to do this. But with this band, it's just kind of like, here's the idea, let's play through it, and they just kind of run with it, and it pretty much all the time just kind of works out. Like it's kind of synergistic in that way.
It comes from this, like recording your rehearsals. Like any band that ever comes to me at this point, it's like, what advice do you have? I'm like, record every fucking rehearsal. Go back, mix it, get an idea of what you did, and share it with the rest of the band so they've got something to reference and step back on. And then when you come back the next time as a group, make your changes, re-record it, and get to the point where you really like what you're doing. With the song, like
it helps you step back too.
Yeah, you got to step back.
You can hear it as a listener instead of a player, where you're focused on what I'm playing and what's going to happen next.
Listen. And if you guys, Drew, and Kevin, you haven't mentioned it, but Drew, you've mentioned you play in a band. Kevin, do you play in a band as well?
I do not. I do not.
You get to this point to where when you're working on a song and you're writing, like there's an absolute difference between being the player and the listener, and like being able to take that recording of a rehearsal and mix it down and then go back and remove yourself as a player and be a listener. You're like, oh, okay, I need to tighten this up, or maybe we should try that. Like, that's just kind of, and that's kind of how we work. Like we don't get a ton of time together. Like maybe a day or two a week sometimes. And we like to utilize our time as much as we can by, recording and going back and making changes via fucking text message and like doing it and coming back to a rehearsal with some sort of idea of what we want to do. And I think it's worked for 3-4 years now.
Yeah.
So maybe it can work for another, 3 or 4. We'll come up with something cool. Fuck, I don't know.
Yeah. So with part of that is very, very public with what you've done with Get By. So is there maybe one example of something that the first time you did the album and when you re-recorded it, is there one song in particular that you think we made huge strides or big changes in this song and that's why we like it better now?
Yeah, I think we all collectively agree that Don't Mind No Distance really, the new version of Don't Mind No Distance really came together.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that the original version was what inspired us to re-record everything, but having that come together, I think that one is the one that we're most happy with collectively as the second version of it.
Yeah.
The main reason why we decided to re-record it, truthfully, was when we brought Jason officially into the band and heard him start playing his drums. There was just such a different approach that he took to the songs and the things that he was adding as a drummer, not in just his parts being different, but the energy that he brought to the album. And we really liked the Get By album, and we felt like it was missing on energy overall without having Jason as a drummer. So shout out to Jason, and felt like he did a good job. Like the new song, we're really happy with it.
That honestly, that song on these redos, like it's so. That song is so fucking good. Like it resonates like who we are, and like it feels really good. Deal with the Devil's another one.
Yeah, that one surprised me.
That one actually, when we recorded that one, like I walked from that one. That song got absolute rebirth, and like, it was just every time. It's not like this huge hit banger, but every time I hear it, I'm like, my God, that song turned out so good.
Yeah.
Like you know how it is when you're in a band. You know, maybe a band's got that one song that everybody likes, that everybody knows. If I pull one of ours, "Slow Down," it did great on the first album. When the new version of it comes out here in a few months, it'll be even, hopefully, just as good as the first time around, if not better. But like "Deal with the Devil," like there's something about that one. Like when it pops up on the radio or on the Spotify mix or whatever I'm listening to, sometimes I'm like, oh shit, man, like this one hits. Yeah, like it's a lot of fun. It's fun to
very different. Yeah. And I wasn't it Dominic that helped us? Am I giving an invalid shout out? Shout out Dominic. But I think that he had something to do with helping us.
He did, because that song was sort of all over the place. The first
it was.
Oh,
again, that's a great example of simplifying it. If you listen to the original version,
right,
"Deal with the Devil" versus what we put out, that was all.
Mhm.
I think, if I'm remembering right, Dominic's idea of just kind of simplifying it, and you can listen to the bass line just kind of going back and forth between two notes, filling in the space instead of just kind of running with it like the first time.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kevin, you snuck these in.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, that's like the distraction candy. So you're not actually supposed to ship samples like that. So you put something in there that rattles instead of sloshes. Yeah. So you're re-releasing Get By right now. Are you actively writing new material, and when can we expect a new album?
Yeah, we've got our third album is probably almost completely written. As a band, we've come together with the ideas and hashed through probably 6 or 7 of the tunes, I think. A couple of them were recorded, and we've been slowly kind of building our own studio where we're recording in-house and sending our tracks to Dominic, our engineer, to mix them. So we've got, I think, 3 or 4 more songs from the Get By Redux that we're going to release over the next 3 or 4 months. And then plan is to just continue to release new songs. Yep.
Yeah, we kind of stay pretty consistent with releasing music and keeping stuff coming out.
Yeah. So you think we'll hear some new stuff maybe first of next year?
First of next year, probably January, February timeline. I think is when we'll probably start throwing out some of those tracks. Yeah.
So when does the tour start? So you can come to Louisville.
Jason was a tour manager.
Like I was saying, talking to Brandon from Sweetwater the other day. Sweetwater. Oh my God, that's so funny.
Shout out Sweetwater.
Sweetwater. Call me like once a week, Sorry, Sweet Lady. Brandon from Sweet Lady. Like, man, we'd love to get out there to the Midwest. I grew up there. Cincinnati, Louisville were always kind of like home cities for me. And I don't know, maybe next year, with friends of ours being in Nashville, and I grew up around that blues community in those cities, and like it's good, So here in Phoenix, we don't really have the blues community that you all do, and we would love to be able to come and be part of that and step into it and share what we do with everybody there.
The tricky thing is we've all got our families and careers here, but the goal is to start kind of branching out and getting out of our comfort zone and playing out a little bit more. So I think 2024 is probably, hopefully, when we'll start kind of getting into more of those blues festival circuits and maybe even touring a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting more and more asks, so it's time we respond. Yeah, the people have spoken.
Well, your music is fantastic. I think the 2 albums that you've got out right now are terrific. And one of the surprises was the Christmas. I don't know if you call it an EP or what, but I tell you what, I could be wrong. It might be the best Christmas song written in a very long time. I love it. It's just fantastic.
Drew was asking earlier about our kind of how faith plays into our
Yeah.
songwriting, and that
Curious
song
if you
was
read between the lines on that one.
we'd kind of written that song as like
that one kind of direct.
kind of a faith song. It's like, does God exist? But kind of spin
God is
spin on it
God
for
is
Santa
Santa.
Claus. So that's what that track is all about.
Love it.
In case you missed it.
You know, I kind of, yes, as you said, read between the lines on that. But as a Santa Christmas song, it's kind of funny. But I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, we like J.D. McPherson. He's got an original Christmas album out, and we thought it was really cool what he did.
Yeah.
And just people who have like original Christmas songs, I think it's something cool to have.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity also to be a little funny with the
Yeah.
songs, whereas
Sure.
with the regular ones, you kind of have to be serious with everything. But
We're all dads. You
Yeah.
know, like, we got kids, you know, like, and it's fun for them to kind of see that and even be kind of part of it.
Yeah. No, that's
But
very cool.
we're hoping to get another one of those, kind of do another Christmas every year. We gotta get going on this stuff. Send us ideas, concepts. Haven't started that one yet. We gotta hurry.
We got to get on that one.
We can work on that. We can work on that. That's for sure. Well, we'll start wrapping things up here. We've had you guys for a while now, and want to respect your time. I know you have families and other things that you need to be doing, but we can't thank you enough for joining us. I hope you had a good time. I know we did.
Absolutely.
Man, we'd love to come back. Like this is a good conversation, and I really like the whiskey side of it.
Yeah.
It's a nice touch.
Great show.
We do these podcasts from time to time, and like this one's right up there on top. Man. Like really enjoyed having the time to chat with you.
Well, thank you for saying that. We
Thank you guys
appreciate
for
it.
being here. Yeah.
And maybe when we start seeing some new stuff in 2024, we'll get you guys back on and we'll talk about the new music, and there's some other things that I want us to get to as well, and that we'll just save for another time because
Love that.
Love it.
yeah, just love what you guys are doing. Love your sound. I really appreciate the honesty in the lyrics. And, I hope that journey leads you to a good place as you're searching that out, and just got nothing but good things to say about you. And as we tell any band or musician that comes on the show, our show is like Hotel California. You can check in anytime you like, check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. So you're now a Bourbon Turntable alumni, and whatever we can do to help you guys out, promote you, support you, we're here to do that for you. So
Well, thank you very
It's a
much.
great show.
Yeah.
I've discovered a few bands that I'm really digging from your show. So keep doing
good. Thank you. Glad to hear that. Well, we'll start wrapping things up. Guys, tell us where everybody can find you. I think I got a few of the things covered here.
Yeah, we're on the Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of the streaming platforms. Our website is thedeadbeatcousins.com.
Email is thedeadbeatcousins@gmail.com.
Yep, we try to keep it simple. So
Yeah, if you pretty much just Google the Deadbeat Cousins, we're them.
We're there.
You come up. You come up. All right, Drew, how about you? Where can people find you?
Awesome. Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, and then all streaming platforms for the music. DrewCrawleyMusic.com for anything. We've got a single that has been uploaded, but will be released later this fall. And then, I so hope that we can get this record out this year, but we'll see. I'm going to Nashville on Friday, so if we can get the work done, there'll be another record out this year. So, just keep your eyes open.
Very, very good. As for our show, you can watch the show on YouTube. So go on over there and subscribe to that. You can listen to the show on your podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, and Google. We have a Facebook page where we release all of our shows. We have a Facebook group where we have folks that come in and they'll tell us what are they listening to that day? What are they drinking while they're listening to it? And you get a chance to get introduced to new whiskeys, get introduced to new bands, or revisit some of the same. So that's kind of what we have to offer you. And next time, Drew, who will we have on our show?
Yeah. So we got Mr. Dusty Bowe, good friend of mine here in the local Louisville singer-songwriter community. He is just a killer guitar player, a killer lyricist, and he's got some really exciting things coming out as far as touring dates and shows and all kinds of stuff like that. So we're looking forward to having Dusty on.
Yep. He's calling it his Westbound mess around tour. So he's heading out west. I looked, he's not going to be in Arizona, unfortunately, but he will be in California and Texas and Nevada. So hopefully that'll go really well for him. He kicks off that tour on October 5th here in Louisville, and then heads out to parts unknown. So, all right. So on behalf of Drew and Jaren and Matt and Jason and Matt and Dominic, who we got to have on the show next time. Hey, cheers, love, and Freebird.
Cheers.
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 Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Good one.